You ready?
Are you sure compressed air will move fuel or something?
Let's find out.
You can move air with it.
Yeah. No, the air's on top. Long enough with no coolant in it. Huh? Yeah. That's yeah, it should be what goes in there. Let's probably do a description of what's happening here. Alright, let me do a complete description for the camera and you'll get it at the same time. Alright, first of all, the way I'm doing the harness is I'm using the stock fuse block. I'll get into this later. It looks bad right now because my situation is a special situation. I had to run these wires here because this harness was a drive-by wire, but so I had to run my wires for the throttle position sensor and the IAC. So normally you wouldn't have to do that. You just run the fuse block. Got one power source coming to it, and then two hots coming in here. This is a constant hot, and that's ignition hot. If you got that and your computer's flashed to remove the vehicle anti-theft system, the engine will run. So I'll go into more detail on this. I'm sure y'all shoot me some questions so I can go over it more thoroughly. I rushed this tonight so we can get this booger cranked before I went on vacation. I'm going to run it again here in a minute. I don't want to run it too long without any coolant. I do plan on hooking up a radiator and making this look better later so we can run it longer, maybe for about 30 minutes, but I wanted to see it run. So that's the harness side of it. I've got jumper cables run over to the starter to get it started for now. I'm kicking the starter over with that same trigger I used before. What's next? Oh, fuel. So fuel, I didn't ever got that electric fuel pump to put on here to run this on. So what I did is I put the lines back on the fuel rail, crimped them off with vice grips so they won't leak on me, and and in the fuel pressure test port I ran my tool here. Now this tool is usually made to run a cleaner through the fuel rail to run concentrated cleaner and clean out your injectors. Well, I just filled it up with fuel, pressurized it with the air tank. You got a regulator here, and we started it at about 25 pounds of fuel pressure. I thought I had it at 30. That's why I ran kind of rough at first. I bumped it up to 40, as you see now, 40, almost 45 pounds of pressure, and it smoothed out the idle. So this is how I'm force feeding feeding fuel into the fuel rail. I'm saying you got to do what you got to do if you want to make this run before I left. Now I showed y'all before on the other video, the fuel oil pressure gauge, it was reading 42, about 42 pounds, 41 pounds right now while I was idling. Of course, the coolant temperature is not going to read because there's no water in there to read anything yet. Anything I miss? You see any other questions, Sean, there to talk about? It ran with no O2 sensor because the guy who pulled the engine ripped the wires out. So that might answer one of your questions. You don't have to have it in there to get it to run, but it definitely wants it in there. It's better to have it in there.
You could raise money by taking bets on which part causes a catastrophic failure first.
That might be the next bet.
My pulley's got $5 on that one.
You don't like the pulley?
Fell.
What else? There's my quickie rig for the TPS. Excuse me, that's the IAC, idle air control motor. And you got the TPS down there, throttle position sensor. I had to run wires all the way down to the connectors for the computer because this harness didn't have it, like I said earlier. This engine originally had, do this crap here, had this throttle body here on it, which has had one plug, because this is a drive-by wire. Oh, excuse me, one more plug over here. It's a drive-by wire. So it'll be different plugs and it works differently, different pins on the computer. I just pulled that off, put the drive-by cable on, and had to run the wires to the harness down here. Let's see if you can see where I ran them into. There's a couple of them. Of course, these the way I ran these wires wouldn't be the permanent way. This is just to get it running today. I need to go back and solder them and shrink wrap. But I plan on redoing the whole harness. Here's my plan with the harness. Was this one to show you this simple way I'm doing it today, and then I want to show you a second step is when we cut this fuse block off and use that universal block that I've showed y'all before, just to get rid of this big bulk. As you see, half of it's only used. The other plugs aren't even used. Then the third way will be when I go in detail and actually remove all the extra wires that we don't use, reroute this to where it goes down the back of the engine so we don't have to look at it. All right.
You're going to get attached to this thing, and I don't want to blow it up.
I don't know. LS Fest is coming up. Be nice if I got it on the dyno up there.
That would be fine. It's a good place to blow it.
On the dyno? Let's go ahead and crank it up again. No, it was on the vehicle, yeah.
Oh, you got the Camaro.
Yeah, I'm going to slap it on the Camaro and get it on the dyno. All right. Let's crank it up again. My trigger. Come on now. Fuel. He said, Mark. All right, I guess that's it for the night. Since we got fuel spraying out of my little clamps here, we just learned that won't hold 50 pounds. We'll go back down to 40.
I mean, if this was out in the driveway, I could have been quiet. But it's in the driveway.
Y'all have a good night.